Hey, buddy.
You know, you hear all that crap, but I understood that that crap was going to come with the territory.
Hey, buddy.
But I'll live with the crap.
Buddy.
And I feel very good.
He's a disgruntled Scottish guard known for his lethal temper and his unusual eating habits. He weighs a metric ton. His name, Fat Bastard.
One of the things, Mike, that's been pointed out over the course of today and last night after the game is that you seem resigned to the fate after the game, that there wasn't much fire in you, and you sort of stood up before the media and said, well, you know, this is the way it is. Are you resigned to this fate?
You're the same guy that wrote about me when I did have the fire, that was the wrong thing to do. So who you crapping?
Well, I'm just asking.
Don't crap me now. No.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Lies, that's all I ever get from you. I thought by now you'd realize.
Well, that fish was good.
There ain't no way to hide your lying eyes.
All right, it's 5:04 on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Square. Let me see if I can remember this. Limit this to something someone said, not something someone did.
Nicely done. And we do have a line open for Crapper who wants to jump on 312-644-6767. We will start with Gary in Evanston on The Score.
Hi, guys. I hope that on Sunday night, the beautiful Archie Punjabi wins the Emmy for supporting actress in the dramatic series. And speaking of the Emmys, who cares?
Gary, we're gonna come someday and we're gonna take away your TV.
And speaking
You
of
know
the
that,
Emmys,
right?
Oh, I got a new one. This crap is for this crap is for Steve Dahl, who concluded his Tribune column yesterday by actually pleading with the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences to, quote, stop giving Tony Shalhoub awards for his work on Monk. It's not that good. On the first place, Steve is behind the times because while Shalhoub has won 3 Best Comedy Actor Emmys for Monk, he got his last one in 2006. And it's been 30 Rock's Alec Baldwin who has won the last 2 Emmys in this category and who was nominated once again along with Shalhoub. But Shalhoub did his best work yet in last year's final season of Monk, the greatest cable series ever. It will be a great injustice if he loses out to Baldwin or any of the other nominees on Sunday. Steve Dahl, who are you crapping?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know I love Gary. But how would you like to spend an hour inside his head?
I love how he calls it Monk.
Monk. I mean, seriously,
Monk.
how would you know, you're Mr. Monk. How would you like to spend an hour inside Gary's mind?
No. Thank you. This is from Schmutzy.
Thanks for asking.
Schmutzy says last week Terry gave his opinion on the air of Ken Harrelson's irritating tendency to dwell on things like missed ball strike calls that went against the Sox 2 or 3 or 6 innings ago, and his continuous insinuations there's some kind of umpire conspiracy against the Sox. Terry said, in so many words, I defy you to find any other announcer in any sport that does that stuff. I can understand being a homer. You can't get a job in baseball broadcasting if you don't openly root, but that constant complaining about having games stolen by the umpires makes Hawk unlistenable. It got so bad I had to turn it off. Or words to that effect. Later that evening, during the game, Hawk said to Stoney, well, apparently there are some people who think that a bad call by an umpire can't cost you a game, and that is just BS. I'm going to assume that Hawk was directing his comment at Terry's comments, as they came totally out of the blue, but Terry never said a bad call can't cost a team a game. Of course a bad call can cost a team a game. What Terry said is that Hawk is constantly complaining that the Sox are receiving an inordinately large number of bad calls, and that he dwells on those perceived bad calls for innings after the call, and that he's repeatedly insinuated the Sox are being intentionally cheated. Hawk, I'd like to know if you really do think there's some umpire conspiracy against the Sox, and if so, why? I don't need a laundry list of calls you found questionable. I want to know why you think the umpires intentionally made bad calls against the good guys. Address the points Terry made rather than kicking the bejesus out of a straw man who says that bad calls don't cost teams games. If you really think Major League umpires are working in concert against the Chicago White Sox, you got to be bleeping me. Ken Harrelson, who you crapping?
That's why I love that man.
Chris in Urbana is on Who You Crapping on The Score.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
Love your show.
Love your suit.
Love the loathe Lovey Smith. All right. This is my first crap.
Good luck with your first crap.
This crap goes out to Tommy Harris. Last week, while being interviewed by the inimitable Boers and Bernstein, Tommy was asked how the safeties look and replied, "No, they're young, they're learning. You can't buy experience. You have to go through it." Actually, Tommy, there is a place in this NFL you can go buy to experience. It's called the free agent market. Now, putting aside the Bears' continued refusal to go get a veteran safety, despite playing a pretty safety-reliant defense, Tommy's slip-up would be excusable if every other word out of his mouth wasn't, "Boy, that Julius Peppers looks good, doesn't he?" Julius Peppers, as we all know, was brought to the team via free agency. So, Tommy, lay out the ho-hos, leave the coach speak to the brainwashed Mike Martz, and who you crapping.
Thank you, Chris. Johnny Mack is writing.
My guy!
So somebody better look out. Says this goes out to one of the wealthiest baseball widows of all time, restaurant maven and saloon keeper Dutchie Carey. In their ongoing efforts to establish the Chicago Cubs as a Major League Baseball franchise with a mission statement that includes winning the World Series, the Ricketts family is removing the Harry Carey statue from in front of the cartoon rum pirate and planting him in front of the bleacher entrance. Harry's on the move again, Dutchie says in the Chicago Sun-Times. He was never content to stay in one place. He wanted to know what was happening in the next bar, the next restaurant, or the next city. He liked it where the action was. Dutchie, like a lot of people, Harry's favorite drink was the next one. His favorite joint was the one he just walked into or the one he was on his way to. He was the ultimate party animal, and now he's dead. His statue stands in front of Wrigley because it's impossible to justify putting up statues of players who haven't won the World Series in 102 years. Ernie Banks stands alone on the other side of the facility because neither he nor any of his Cub teammates ever won a thing together. Harry was very content to stay in St. Louis for 25 years, where a 40-foot statue of Stan Musial greets fans. Very content to stay at Comiskey for 10-plus years, where a championship statue greets fans. He was content to finish his broadcasting career as a slurring circus clown for the all-time clown princess of baseball. Now the clown car's loading him up and driving him all the way around the corner to the bleacher entrance. In typical clown car fashion, this passes as an event worthy of publicity. Really, Dutchie, why do you sign up for this nonsense? Anyone older than a T-ball player knows the Wrigley Field bleachers in September are exactly where the action isn't. In fact, the reason the Ricketts families made the decision to move him around the corner is that it's embarrassing to celebrate drunken stupidity with two statues at one of the most visible corners in baseball. If Harry wanted to be where the action is, he'd be in the meeting rooms of the Ricketts families planning its eventual move into a first-class baseball facility worthy of their multi-generational ownership ambitions. Dutchie, the Cubs are turning the page, and so should you. Who you crapping?
And poor Billy Williams feels bad about all of it. You see that?
I didn't.
Yeah, he feels awkward. Feels like it's been an awkward situation because he loved Harry, and who doesn't? But I mean, he feels bad about it. So really, it's a no-win. Really, I think.
Here's one from Borges Weems to Lawrence Holmes.
Not home.
Toward the end of his 8-19 stint with 25 years of Dan McNeil, Loho scoffed at a shabby, shifty Sox defense that let Jim Thome reach second because nobody covered. I gave myself a V8 forehead slap on that one, too. The problem is, Holmes said Jim scampered into second. Scampered? Like a bunny? Like a lovely fawn? A high motor grinder? Lawrence, Jim may have lumbered, rumbled, or even ran. But he'll moon Ozzie and flash school children before he scampers. Lon Holmes! Who you crapping?
Home!
John and Elgin is next on the score.
Hey, guys, it's Jungle John and Elgin, first-time caller.
Good luck with your first crap.
Thank you very
Why
much.
did you come in to catch that gator?
Too far away. On the last Braves series, Sano said that the lights are on at Wrigley, and it's not as dark as when the lights are off. And Pat Hughes had no comment. And I'm thinking, Ron, your lights have been off for years. Ron Sano, who you crapping?
It's just in. Yeah. When the lights go on, it's not as dark.
Stonecutter says, recently enshrined Pro Football Hall of Famer Dick LeBeau, during his induction speech, says, I still learn something almost daily from the current head coach of The Ohio State University, Jim Tressel. Coach Tressel is a textbook on how to conduct yourself at a major college level with integrity. Yeah, and Bob Huggins is a textbook on sobriety. Maurice Claret just got out of prison for aggravated robbery and carrying a concealed weapon. Doug Worthington wasn't suspended after his DUI. Troy Smith took money from a booster and probably broke a woman's jaw in a parking lot on campus. And while Tressel was at Youngstown State, quarterback Ray Isaac took $10,000 from a booster. Albert Dukes was allowed to play in a bowl game after being charged with 2 felonies for lewd and lascivious conduct involving a 12-year-old girl. Alex Boone was arrested after being subdued with a taser during a drunken tirade that saw him jumping on car hoods, yanking on a tow truck cable, trying to break a window, and fleeing police. Eugene Clifford was charged with assault after punching 2 men in the face. Antonio Henton was arrested and charged with soliciting a prostitute. And the list goes on and on and on. Dick LeBeau, 2 questions. Why must you murder irony, and who you crappin'?
That's some research there.
Isn't it?
That's now there, right there, kids. Right there. That's what we're talking about.
Jim in Crown Point is on Who You Crappin' on the score.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
This one goes out to Mike Mulligan, the guy that kept the hard line against steroids for all this time. Now, all of a sudden, his team, the Sox, has an opportunity to get a left-handed bat who's on steroids who will remain nameless. Mully, you can't have it both ways. Either you're for it or against it. Who are you crapping?
I think we'd be guilty of that, too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I plead guilty. I'm going to throw myself to your mercy. Mercy. I have problems with it, but I understand it. But I still have problems.
Lawyer is going after us today. He says,
doesn't he have a job yet, this guy?
You know what? It says can't call in, stuck at work.
W-O-R-K?
W-O-R-K.
Wow.
Not W-E-R-K, as in like Kraftwerk. He's actually now a member of Kraftwerk. He says on Monday,
well, God bless him.
Dan Bernstein and Terry Boers listed off the Score's menagerie of animals who will do bad things to people at their bidding. The monitor lizard, Travis the chimp, and the ham. Discussion turned to whether or not to admit a bull that climbed into the stands and attacked spectators, but you guys agreed the bull was ineligible because he had been killed.
Yes, that's right. There is something to be said for that. Yes, we did.
You know who else was killed? Travis the chimp.
I know.
Shot to death by a police officer at the time of his face-eating attack.
We don't want to think about that.
And the Score ham was already dead when it battered Paula Dean. So which is it? Are dead animals allowed to join the Score menagerie or not? Get your story straight, or an airborne ham is heading your way. Boers and Bernstein, who you crapping?
He's right.
Mark in Highland Park is next on the Score.
How you doing, guys?
Hello. Hey, Mark.
Bringing a sigh of relief that I do not have to go on after Ron Santo crap. How do you follow that up? We're going to stay with the same team, though. My crap goes to the great Sammy Sosa, and I say that sarcastically, who made the comment that he was upset that it's number 21 and have let other people wear it and is not understanding the reason why. Well, Sammy, maybe considering the fact that they'll never fully proven, but has been suspected for years you've been juicing up, and the fact that you walked out on the team in your last game is probably 2 good reasons why the fans and the team probably just can't stand you. So, Sammy, fasten yourself into the bathroom, look in the mirror so you can see your Casper the Ghost complexion, and ask yourself, who are you crapping?
That's we're in the midst of Who You Crappin' on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Still plenty of time for you. Jump on in at 312-644-6767. It's our signature segment, you know. So come on out and play. You've got Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
Most fuel-efficient details available.
To remember the Belmont Avenue days, you're going to love this.
Tomorrow, we have a very special Bud Light Who Needs Two Tavern Tour live broadcast at Bar Louie, 22 East Chicago Avenue in Naperville. It's the return of the Heavy Fuel Crew, starring Dan McNeil and Terry Boers, together for one show only.
That's right. We'll step back in time to revive some of that old magic that was the Heavy Fuel Crew.
While there, have a cold Bud Light and register for a chance to win tickets to a future Cubs game.
So right after Mully and Hanley, Bernstein will fill in for me and join Speaks between 9 and 1.
And from 1 to 6 is the Heavy Fuel Crew reunion show with the birthday boy,
and Terry Boers.
Live at Bar Louie in Naperville on Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Chicago Sports Station. Presented by Bud Light. Here we go.
Yay.
Weird. Mr. Who You Crappin'? You're on Chicago Sports Radio 6.
Yay.
The Gatling gun of gay.
Hey, for all of you old Score heads, the ones who remember the Belmont Avenue days, you're going to love this.
Tomorrow, we have a very
You finished Okay. Civilian Crappin. 644 67 67. And next week we'll be telling you where to get a haircut.
We can.
All
right.
Scoreheads, the ones who remember the Belmont Avenue days, you're going to love this.
Tomorrow, we have a very special Bud Light Who Needs Two Tavern Tour live broadcast at Bar Louie, 22 East Chicago Avenue in Naperville. It's the return of the Heavy Fuel Crew, starring Dan McNeil and Terry Boers, together for one show only.
That's right. We'll step back in time and revive some of that old magic that was the Heavy Fuel Crew.
While there, have a cold Bud Light and register for a chance to win tickets to a future Cubs game.
So right after Mulligan here, Bernstein will fill in for me and join Speaks between 9 and 1.
And from 1 to 6 is the Heavy Fuel Crew reunion show. It's the birthday boy. Da, da, da.
And Terry Boers.
Live at Bar Louie in Naperville on Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Chicago Sports Station. Presented by Bud Light. Here we go.
Brian is in his car, and he's on Who You're Crapping on the Score.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
That's a tough one to follow. but my crap goes out to the one and only, our lovable Roger Clemens. Last week, he was indicted. After taking the oath, I've never had nothing to do with steroids, pointing that meaty finger at everybody, and now it turns out he's going to go to jail. Roger, you sanctimonious pudwack, I'd give $100 to see you do a perp walk. Who you crapping?
He's not going to jail yet. He's just been indicted.
No, he's got him in jail.
He hasn't been convicted of anything. This is sent in by Parker. It says the legislation to legalize online gambling is gaining momentum. It just got a big push from the NFL after Congress inserted an amendment to prevent the legalization of sports betting online. The NFL reaffirmed that good old-fashioned illegal bookmaking will always wet its beak. We don't oppose it, since it now includes the language we had hoped for, wrote Brian McCarthy, a vice president of communications for the NFL.
Really?
The amended language adequately addressed our specific concern. We are pleased with the outcome. In 2004, USA Today estimated $40 million in football betting every fall weekend in Nevada, another $2 billion to $5 billion in illegal football betting around the country. Super Bowl Sunday, $5 to $7 billion traded hands. While the NFL and Congress shuffle the deck, it's a rock-solid lead pipe bet that about $100 billion per year will always grease the same palms. Brian McCarthy, who you crappin'? Look who's in his car today. It's Bichiro.
Oh, my God.
Good afternoon. No, man, hold on. This is Northside Pimp today, baby. You feel me?
Wait a sec. You can't change characters in mid-call.
What are you doing?
Man, them damn producers is tripping, man. Man, it's a gay-ass show today. Hey, listen, check this out. I was listening to Ozzy again talking about his son and tweeting and that, he a grown man, he adult and all that. Man, I got a son, too, and I tell you what, if he talking crap about me and my job, I'm still a father. I could put my foot in his ass. So, Ozzy again, you funny-talking bastard, who are you crapping?
What is he doing?
First it was Bichiro, and then it was Northside Pimp, and then Maddie changed it to Northside Gay. My screen changed twice. Oh, look. Oh, this is usually a treat here. Oh, we're going to save him? All right, we'll save him. All right, I see. So let's do Mark from Schaumburg next on the score.
Well, let's do.
Hey, Mark.
Gay. Okay, show guys. All right, this call goes out to Jim Hendry. Sorry, Bernstein, I owe you 10 cents for copyright infringement.
That's
for trying to signing $95 million for a pitcher who you knew was a head case, then trying to trade him. No one would take him. So now you're going to say, oh, you know what? We're not going to trade him. Jim Hendry, if someone gave you $5 for Zambrano, you'd take it right now. Jim Hendry, who you crapping?
Thank you, Mark. Here's our buddy Pete from Libertyville, who says this one is for desiccated radio harpy Dr. Laura. You whined to Larry King that you're quitting your radio show because you want to regain your First Amendment rights. I'm sorry, did I miss the jackbooted stormtroopers raiding your studio, shutting down your transmitter, and tossing your bony arse in jail? Lady, the First Amendment restricts government interference with speech, but it's not a license to be a shrieking harridan without consequence.
Ooh, a shrieking harridan. Wow.
Free speech does not guarantee you a job, a microphone, or willing sponsors, and it definitely doesn't protect you from public scorn and ridicule. It certainly does, however, allow me to express your little pity party of one display as both pathetic and hilarious, and to say the C word over and over again, Dr. Laura, who you crappin'.
Wow.
Wayne in Crown Point, you're on the score.
Oh, what's happening, guys?
Hello, Wayne.
Hey, this one's for Ozzy. He talks about Manny Ramirez is going to be under control if he comes to Chicago. Hell, what he should have done is just made a deal for Milton Bradley last year. Ozzy, who are you crapping?
Okay. Alrighty, then.
The Beverly Brewmaster has this for the troglodytes at Fox News. After Minnesota Vikings safety Hussein Abdullah announced that he would fast during Ramadan, even though it might hurt his training camp performance, they announced the story with a headline reading, NFL player puts Islam above team. The lead to the story continued. Fasting and playing at a lower level is apparently more important than giving his all for the team. So Fox believes that a player should simply put aside his faith when it runs contrary to his team's goals, does it? And I bet Fox would be upset when a player uses religion as an excuse to skip a game, especially if a player isn't particularly devout, right? Well, in 2004, then Fox Sports broadcaster Steve Lyons criticized Dodger Shawn Green for skipping a pennant race game because it conflicted with Yom Kippur. In his criticism, Lyons noted that he's not even a practicing Jew. He didn't marry a Jewish girl. From what I understand, he was never bar mitzvahed. Well, given Fox's stance on Abdullah, they must have been thrilled to employ someone like Lyons who wasn't afraid to call out Green for placing his faith above his teammates, right? Actually, Fox wasn't thrilled. In fact, Fox suspended Lyons without pay and apologized for his comments. So apparently, in the eyes of Fox, there's nothing wrong with putting God above your team, as long as it's the right God.
The right God, yeah.
If your last name is Green or Tebow or McCoy, good for you for putting your faith before trivial worldly matters like sports. But if your last name is Abdul Rauf or Abdullah, you're allowing your hateful militant superstitions to come before your team. So Fox News, who you crapping?
I want to talk to him, too, about the OTB.
Well, I know you're more worried about that than anything else.
But, that's how my mind works. I don't, I stand up for the little guy?
The Wizard of Warrenville says it's for Phil Rogers, who said in his article polishing Bud Selig's halo and statue that it's only a lunatic fringe that thinks Selig and the baseball owners turned a tolerant eye on the steroids epidemic.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
Okay, it wasn't just steroids that produced bloated offensive stats at the turn of the millennium. Expansion, diluted pitching, cozy new stadiums, and maybe juiced balls all helped inflate those stats. And yes, the union was less than helpful in any anti-steroid initiatives, but the sad fact is that after what the ill-advised lockout and 94 World Series cancellation did to diminish the game's standing, the owners and commissioner were willing to do or abet pretty much anything that would restore interest and revenue, including sacrificing some of the most hallowed records and even celebrating it. Remember, chicks dig the long ball. It wasn't about lunacy. It was about short-sighted damage control and, as usual, money. The game won't be done paying the price for a long time, so Phil Rogers, who you crapping?
I see. Again, I saw that, and you know my policy now.
Terry, as long as your policy includes checking your manometer.
Oh, boy. And I think, if you've been paying attention, you know exactly where I got my manometer.
The Isle of Man.
That's where I've been. Yeah, I vacationed there.
You lived in the sands there, I believe.
I did.
And we will close out Who You Crappin' with the one and only Richie in Olympia Fields.
Uh-oh.
On the score.
Uh-oh. Richie!
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, outstanding. What do you got, my friend?
Well, this crap goes out to Ron Santo, who about a month or so ago, during the 50th anniversary celebration of his career, they played a statement of him saying he didn't make the Hall of Fame and he thought it was a travesty because he played all those years with diabetes. Ronnie, there's 3 reasons why you didn't make the Hall of Fame. Number 1, you were a good third baseman. You weren't a great third baseman. Number 2, you had good numbers. You didn't have great numbers. And number 3, and most important, because of your big mouth in 1969, you totally ruined the career of a rookie center fielder named Don Young. And 29 years later, almost did the same thing to Brent Brown because they're human and they drop fly balls. So, Ronnie, you fat little bastard, bald-headed, toupee-torching piece of dung, who are you crapping?
I've had pizza dung. It's not bad. Lord. Pizza dung, very interesting. Hey, buddy.
Maybe you were having an off day.
Yeah. Oh, boy. It's always a pause with old Rich, isn't it? Just,
right to the dumb button.
Oh, hey.
Who you crapping?
All right, kids, is it good to have it back? I think so. Anyway, Roar of the Day involves, unless you're a college football fan, do you know the name John Brantley?